Thank you for joining me in the MPP Power Hour. I am your host, Massimo Palermo. Today I have with me as my guest, Elena Carter. Elena was born in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and then in 2013, she relocated to Bulgaria and lives by the sea in the beautiful city of Varna. Elena has explored many different career paths, from working as a political and human rights assistant at the Netherlands embassy to making jewelry. Then in 2020, while she was on maternity leave with her youngest son, she decided to pursue her lifelong dream of becoming a writer and published her first book, Follow the Hummingbird. And now, without further ado, I would like to welcome to my show, Elena Carter. Hello, Elena. Welcome to the MPP Power Hour. How are you?
Hello, Massimo. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. I think I butchered the Kazakhstan a little bit there in my enunciation, but I tried my best.
Yeah, it's okay. Nobody gets it right.
It's all right. So anyway, so yes, again, thank you again for coming on to the show. It's a great honor. It's always fun to speak to other authors on my show because we can relate so much as writers, and relate to some of our own struggles and whatnot. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about Elena? Am I saying your name right, Elena or Elena or Lena? Elena?
Yeah, Elaine, that's another one that people usually get wrong. Yeah, it's Elena.
Elena. Okay, I was right to start with. Okay. All right. So yeah, go ahead, tell us all about Elena, and go as far back as you like, and we'll take it from there.
Well, my writing career started not too long ago. It actually started about 3 years ago. Although I've always wanted to be a writer, I've always wanted to write books, but life just kind of took me on all kinds of different other journeys everywhere. But until 2020, 3 years ago, when I was encouraged by my husband to finally give it a try and start writing, because I might have mentioned like a few times that has been my lifelong dream, and I really wanted to try. So I've always been a reader, an avid reader since I learned to read basically at like the age of 4 or 5. And books have always been a very important part of my life. So I found myself, many times I found myself thinking that I would love to try to create something like that, to try to maybe affect someone else, like their words and their stories are affecting me through their books, and I guess I never had the courage. I don't know, maybe I didn't have the time, maybe it's just life just went a different direction somehow. I was 40 when I started writing my first book. I had a little baby. It was like maybe 6 months old. Yeah, so I was very limited with time, of course, with a little baby. So what I did was I started writing, typing up my first book on my phone. I started in my notes, and then I moved on kind of to Google Docs, and I started writing separate chapters there, and at nighttime mostly, either during naps in the day, but days are always like more busy. Mostly the night, at night when the baby was asleep, it's like lying on me and I'm typing on my phone, and basically until my hands go numb and I drop on myself. Serious, that
Interesting.
happened quite a few times.
Interesting.
Anyway, but what I discovered was, this amazing feeling of when you find yourself doing something right. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it felt so right, felt so amazing to be putting out a story, to be and just expressing the story that lived in my head, and it felt absolutely great. Now, of course, I had a lot to learn. Well, I still will learn, as we go constantly. So I had a lot to learn about writing, which I was doing also at the same time. Um, was reading craft books. I joined the writing community, and I was like communicating with other authors, and I was reading a lot. I started more than I used to read before, which is always a great idea for a writer. But yeah, this is pretty much how my first book was born. In 2020, I started writing it, and then I released it in the summer of 2021. I
Okay.
released my novel.
It's interesting what you said there. So let me ask a question. You said you were starting to read a lot as you were starting to write. Were you reading a lot as far as looking for styles, or were you reading a lot as far as like research to how to write?
I was reading more fiction. I read
Okay.
nonfiction. I read craft books. I read articles with all kinds of advice, craft advice. I read forums. I read everything. But one piece of advice that really resonated with me was that if you want to be a better writer, you have to read a lot. You have to read, and you have to read everything, because the more you read, you also learn. Yeah, and now I've always loved reading, but at some point in my life, I know that I kind of lost. I don't know. I guess it's about the priorities that we have. When you have like a full-time job and a family and everything, and like you never have time, right?
Right.
And you're like, oh, I have to just lie down with the book, but well, I don't really have the time. I don't really have the time. So I was kind of, there were points in my life when I was reading less, but when I started writing, I made it a priority. I actually started reading much more, and it was amazing because first of all, yes, you grow as a writer when you read, but also what I really enjoyed was that since I'm a self-published author, and pretty early in my journey, I decided that I'm going to be a self-published author, that I'm going to publish my books on my own. So I joined the writing community, and I connected with many other indie authors out there, and I was amazed at how many incredibly talented authors there are with like amazing books in different genres. And so I started reading that. Like I think, well, this year definitely the 15 books that I've read this year so far, and I think about 40 that I read last year. I would say 99% of them are indie books.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
books published published authors, and it is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah. I think that there are a lot of indie writers out there, as you were saying, because as authors, and I'm also an independent publisher as well as a writer. I mean, I initially started out as being published, right, through the first publishing, but then I kind of like, started kind of getting more independent on my own and started doing kind of my own thing now, right? Because I just didn't like how things were going with the publisher at the time. So it's hard to get into the mainstream publishing network because one, they only want to really publish the works of well-known people, celebrities, politicians, and whatever that are in the news because they know, hey, that name is going to sell books. And it doesn't even have to be a good book. It doesn't have to be a good book. So that's number one. Number two, like they won't even read unknown authors and they won't even look at your manuscript. So we find ourselves in as independents, we find ourselves having to do our own thing, but it's okay because a lot of independent writers and publishers and whatnot are doing okay. It can be done, and it's a matter of getting the word out. And once people start reading, like you were doing, you said you wrote 99%. You read 99% of your books were indie writers, so you can find them. It's just a matter of getting out there, get on the right platforms and things like this, like getting on this and talking about it. So yeah. So did you have you said you were inspired were you inspired by any specific writers when you were younger? Is there any specific authors that you said, oh my God, I love this person's writing and this is definitely someone that I want to kind of like, I don't want to say copy, but kind of like follow in the footsteps?
It's, it's hard to say. It's hard to really pinpoint anything or anyone, because when I started reading, like, ages ago as a kid, I used to read everything,
Mhm.
everything. And I read all the classics, read a lot of classics, and way too early, way too. That was a big mistake, but I don't know. I just couldn't help it. I mean, I probably was like 12 when I picked up War and Peace. Okay, just don't do that, people. Don't. Some books, you really have to kind of grow into them.
At 12, you picked up that book? Wow. That
I'd
thing
read,
must,
I'd read Dostoevsky, I'd read Chekhov,
yeah, that book must have weighed more than you.
well, it was kind of I guess it was a good thing for me, because that would be a bit later on, that would be a part of our school, program,
Hmm.
right? But yeah, I just couldn't help it. And can't even, I'm trying to remember, as a kid, I loved The Wizard of Oz. Absolutely, that was
Hmm.
my favorite. Bit later on, I remember that, like, maybe around my teens, or something, pre-teens, it was Gone with the Wind. See, we're talking different genres, like really different
Yeah.
genres here. A bit later, I think maybe in the beginning of my university years, then I discovered The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh my God, fantasy!
Wow.
Like, fantasy is my thing. Yeah, so then I've been into fantasy, then all kinds, really seriously, all kinds of different genres, all kinds of different books. I guess what inspires me most is the magic of storytelling. It's like someone puts ideas into words and sentences that form images. Yes, and when someone else, a totally different person, from a different age, on the other side of the world, they open that book and they read those words and they form their own images in their head, and it triggers certain emotions, and it somehow changes that person when they,
Hmm.
and that, to me, that is pure magic.
Hmm.
Somebody's words, they just made a huge difference in somebody else's life.
Sure. Sure. And,
Yeah,
and it's interesting you say that.
personal experience, but it's just, yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
you
I
were
was
saying.
gonna say it's interesting you say that because, like, as a writer, when I get feedback from people who read the book and come back, says, "Oh wow, I really like what you wrote," and it's just like wow, it's just like I when I initially wrote, I didn't write to try to do that, like try to get that kind of like we were talking about what you could do, what kind of impact you have. I didn't do that to make an impact in people's reading and but it does hit people's emotions, like you said. In some cases one person may read it one way and the other person may read it another way, but in any case, now going back and hearing this, you start thinking, wow, it's just like this is amazing. And now when I'm writing, I'm thinking, boy, I hope whoever's reading it gets entertained or inspired or whatever it is that brings them to want to enjoy my reading the book as an author. So go on, continue. So you wrote your first book, right? And you mentioned the Lord of the Rings, right? Did you mention the Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was saying about the fantasy. I think I
Right,
discovered the genre of fantasy basically
right,
through Tolkien's books. But then there was a there was a lot more. There were some amazing Russian fantasy authors, that I used to read in Russian. Russian is my native language,
right.
and yeah. So I loved the genre of fantasy.
Uh-huh.
I think
And
back then I thought that I think that if I ever decide to write something, that's going to be fantasy, because I
okay.
kind of
And so
uh,
is your first book a genre, basically your first book or first couple books, are they under fantasy or is it
yes, exactly. The whole trilogy. Basically, I have the third book in the trilogy coming out in, well, like 10 days, 9 days, on the 30th of May. My third book comes out, and this is a fantasy trilogy. It's called the Dream Tamer Chronicles. It's got 3 books, and first one is Follow the Hummingbird. And the second one is Follow the Blue Rabbit, and the third one is called Follow the Dragonfly. Basically, they are this is a
So,
fantasy trilogy that invites you on a journey to the world of dreams. You know,
mhm. So I'm
like,
sharing the screen. Do you see the screen?
oh no, oh my love, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm
So
really proud of
if the folks that are watching, they can see that you are an awards finalist as well, not just an author, but also award-winning, or at least a finalist. I don't know if you ended up winning or not, but in any case, to be even considered is an honor alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was so happy. I was so happy. I was so proud. I think this is the only contest that I ever tried, entering. And
Hmm.
when I found out that no, I didn't get I only got the finalist. I didn't make it to the winner, but that meant so much to me because
Yeah.
first book, this is my debut, basically.
Right. Right.
Never written before, and then I go ahead and I write a book and I self-publish it, and well, I write it in my second language, and this is just the first time ever experience for me. So that was a huge thing, really,
Right.
to be the finalist. That was a huge thing for me, and very inspiring, by the way, because you probably know as a writer that we all have those ups and downs, like those emotional ups and downs. And sometimes you feel like I'm a genius. Kidding. Not kidding. Yeah, I have the talent. I have something to say. I like my stories and everything is like just going great. Yeah.
Right.
The the imposter syndrome attacks and you're like, what am I doing?
Hmm. The doubting time.
This, no,
Yeah.
no, nobody's gonna read what they said it was good. Nah, they're just feeling sorry for me or craziness, right?
Right.
So, things like this, like when I got that finalist status, it literally gave me wings. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, so yeah,
It
it's like
make
for
it
validation.
it get it validation, legitimacy, right? It's like, oh my God, maybe I really am a writer, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's the little things that, and like I said, it's not, even though when I first wrote my book, Desire for Love, when I submitted it because for me, legitimacy for me at the time, I was not an independent writer and I had never written before. So I submitted it. And when they said, yeah, we want to publish your book, that's to me was just like, okay. And then when they told me, just to let you know, only 10% of all submissions get accepted. So I
Wow.
was just like, that was actually something I was thinking about. How often do submissions get approved? And she's like, when they told me 10%, I was like, whoa, it's like, damn, wow. Right. So that was to me that made my she goes, so and then the lady I was speaking with, she goes, so yeah, you should be very proud of the fact that, A, you submitted it, but B, that it got accepted with the criteria of only 10% of all submissions. So I was just like, wow, okay, well, good to hear. Like that's a very proud moment. It's just like not only did I just submit it, and it was like, it's the first time, first time I'm trying this, and bam, I'm like, wow, awesome. So
Amazing.
yes, yeah, that's that amazing feeling, like you said, when you got nominated. I mean, just like my first book, I got nominated. Wow. I mean, yeah, exactly. So tell us, we know the books, or is a trilogy right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the trilogy is fantasy. Go ahead and tell us about the book. What would the readers like to read? Why would the readers like to read it? I mean, obviously, besides that, it is good, right? So why would a reader want to read it? Tell us the story, the plot, and so on and so forth. We're not giving away too much.
I'll try to summarize, all three journeys because there are three books, three different journeys of different characters, with one main character that makes the appearance in all three. You go as a reader, you go on a journey into the world of dreams. So if you as a reader, if you find dreams fascinating, yeah, if I don't know if maybe ever experienced some very interesting dreams, recurring dreams, or you're like, I really have a feeling that something else is happening. This isn't just like, my tired brain, producing some pictures in my mind. This is something else. Then I think you'd like that, because basically these stories are about actually going to different worlds in different realities and different universes through the dreams. It all starts with a young woman, a young widow, Tina, who recently lost her husband, and she's very depressed. So she's really struggling to cope with grief. And when she starts having those like very strange dreams, she gets worried that she thinks she's going crazy. She thinks this is, this is wrong. It just shouldn't be happening. And she's like, what's happening with me? But then she realizes that she's actually going places. She's actually able to visit other worlds and meet other people and other creatures and other amazing beings in those worlds, including her late husband, who she gets a chance to see in the other realms. And it's kind of heartbreaking, because all she wants now is basically to stay there and to stay with him, because she cannot process the fact that she lost the love of her life, and she's so young, and she doesn't want to go on without him. So ultimately, it is about letting go, ultimately. A fantastical story, with fascinating worlds and, and different weird and wonderful things happening. But mostly it is a journey of a young woman who has to take a difficult decision of whether she wants to go on with her life and try to build a new life, is able to let go of the pain of the past, of her loss, and whether she has it in her, the courage, the strength to just try to build a happy life. This is the first book, and then in the next couple of books we see also her friends' stories that also travel to different worlds, and their stories are also a little bit different with their personal traumas from the past. But yeah, these are 3 stories of women's journeys through life and self-discovery, and looking for strength inside themselves, and seeing if they can move on and build a happier life for themselves.
Sure. And I'm sure a lot of readers could relate to that, whether it's a lost spouse or a parent or a child, for that matter, because losing someone is always tough. I personally myself lost my father not that long ago, and I still, I mean, yeah, we have to move on, of course, but at the same time, yeah, you're gonna miss that loved one. You no matter what. I think almost like every day you miss that person that you lost. So I think a lot of readers will probably be able to relate to that, whether it's a spouse or not. I mean, we all suffered a loss at some point.
Absolutely, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Something that doesn't heal, really.
Yeah.
There's never the right words for that, because you kind of, you can change anything, you can't really do anything, but
Right.
you kind of imagine what the person is going through, and yeah, it's pretty much a never-ending process,
Sure.
the healing and
Sure.
letting go. It's a very hard process, and everybody has to ultimately go through it on their own,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that, the support from elsewhere, from friends and family. It is something that you have to deal with in your heart, and it's a tough journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, you're gonna miss that person. Got to move on, because that person wouldn't want you not to move on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
you know what? It doesn't mean you can't stop thinking about them though, and think about the good times. And you know,
Absolutely. I think
yep,
I actually think this is the key,
mhm,
focusing on the good times
yep,
and thinking, leading with love, you know,
hmm,
with love and gratitude. Yeah, although sadly the person isn't with you in your life, but if you focus on the good times that you
hmm,
had, on the
yeah,
fact that you were blessed to have this person in your life,
right,
I think it
yeah,
makes it better for everyone.
sure.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Uh, so yeah, so you got your third one coming out any day now. So now that you basically finished three, uh, number one, do you want to be a full-time writer?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to continue writing.
We
So
do,
that's
yeah.
great. I mean, it's great. I mean, especially if you love, I think the best writers are the ones that love writing, number one, you know. So I think that definitely is helpful. So, and the second part is, will you stick to the same genre or do you see yourself going into different genres?
That's a hard one. Yeah. I'm sticking to it for now because I have a couple projects that I've started already. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and I've always loved fantasy. So yeah, I will write fantasy definitely, but I was really interested in the genre of women's fiction. Um, I've been reading a bit more in this genre, and at some point I want to try myself in that genre also. And I might even start writing nonfiction at some point because well, I had all kinds of ideas recently. I started my podcast a month or two ago, I think.
Oh
I
yeah.
started a podcast. Yeah, it's called Dreams, Books, and Miracles. So I'm talking about writing and reading, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly I'm sharing some advice and encouragement,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that what makes me feel amazing is thinking that I can probably help someone and encourage them, and give them the support or give them the advice that they might need because uh, I myself started writing at 40. Yeah, when I could have done it earlier. I don't regret anything. I think this, things just went the way they should have been. Yeah,
Sure.
I think is great. I was supposed to be that kind of person, that specific person that went through those specific things in her life, to start writing.
Mm-hmm.
But I finally started following my dreams, and I had the support and encouragement. uh, Not everyone does, not everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I just want to help. I guess I just want to help people,
Yeah.
I want to tell them that it's never too late to start and you shouldn't be
Right.
afraid. I mean, yeah, it is scary and it's all right. That's also a part,
Part of
overcoming
it.
fears and doubts is
Yeah.
also a part of this journey. It's like the first
Right.
step.
Yeah. The first
So
part. Yeah. Just like you said.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
I'm writing like maybe at some point I'll end up writing some nonfiction motivational book for um people who want to take up writing and
Yeah.
they're not sure about it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that, Elena, because for me, I didn't start writing until my 40s. Well, officially, I didn't submit anything until my 40s.
Yeah.
Desire for Love, I actually started writing when I was in my 20s. And I didn't
Oh,
start writing because I wanted to write um, and submit and publish. That's not the reason I started writing. The reason I started writing is because I had gone through a breakup and a relationship, so I just started writing, part of the healing process. And I always kept starting and stopping, starting and stopping, and I just kept writing. And just part of the whole process. And then it wasn't until the pandemic, during the pandemic, when I decided I had a lot of time on my hands
yeah,
finally, and I
yeah,
had a lot of extra time on my hands. I wasn't going nowhere. I wasn't seeing anybody. Decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to finally sit down and finish it from start to finish. So I had a lot of it already written in my head, right? And then some of it already written down. So I just decided, go ahead, let's just try to do it, submit it, see what happens. And boom, there it is. Right. So it's
yeah.
amazing timing, like you said.
That's amazing. What an amazing story. And I can't believe you had this story for so many years. You were working on it for so many years. That is wow. That
Yeah,
is
because well, so the story is also part of me, basically, right? I mean, just the way I look at it is I wrote a story about a guy named Johnny, which is basically I took some of my characteristics, the shy young boy, blah blah blah, right? And so basically you know, true to life stories, right? So I made a fictional story. I created it based on my own experiences and my own characteristics, and I decided I could write a story because of that, right? So that's why it took so long, not because it took so long because I never intended to really submit it for publication anyway. So it wasn't
Mhm.
until, well, like I said, I started writing just because I just started jotting down. I was always writing things down as a kid in high school and whatnot. I was always writing stuff down. And then all of a sudden I decided, let's put it all together. Let's put all these events and stories and make a story out. And that's what I did.
That's a writer's habit. You already had it in you, basically, all your
Isn't that
life.
amazing, right? I wrote down my calendar, my journal. I kind of was journaling throughout my whole youth, right? Throughout my early 20s and all that stuff. And just like I had it in me, I just never finally decided to get it out until more recently. So,
Look, we got pandemic to thank for something at least. Yeah, we got something out of it.
right. Well, and something you said earlier too, when you started writing and you just like, you were in it. Like, and I was, what I refer to that as you were in the writing zone, right? You found your mood, you found your zone, you started writing. Same thing that happened to me. I sat down, I started doing it, but then when I started writing, I just couldn't stop. It's just like I just kept going. It's just like, hey, oh my goodness, it's like the words are just coming fluidly coming out. Like, wow, you know what I mean? It's just like,
We know,
yeah,
yeah.
it was fun. I had a fun time writing the book because it's just like I said, it just everything started to come together. It was like the right time. It's amazing how timing is everything.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yes. Yep.
Everything happens at the right time. We might not understand it at that point, yeah, because
Right.
well, we like to complain, don't we? That could have happened earlier, or they could have happened the other. Well, maybe it could have, but then it would have had different consequences and not always favorable
Right.
ones. So
Right.
it's better to just go along and and just see the good in everything,
Right.
just see
Yeah.
it the way. Okay, it went like this because it was supposed to. Yeah.
Right.
I
Right.
was supposed to have all that time on my head, for example, yeah, during the pandemic, to
Hmm.
finally start doing that. Yeah. And
Right.
then I was supposed to be that person, with maybe like a different outlook, because of course you have a different outlook,
Hmm.
when you're 40,
Yeah.
compared to when you're 20. Yeah, we grow, we change all the time, and we learn,
Yeah.
and it's amazing.
We experience, right? I mean, the older we are, the more we experience, and then it's just like, well, wait a minute, you you don't learn until you experience something, you
Yeah,
know.
and that all will reflect inevitably in your writing, all your
Sure.
experiences, everything that you've gone through.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so like when I was asking you about your genre, I don't see myself just writing one type of genre. I see two or three, maybe even four different genres. At some point, I've got like a bunch of little projects that I kind of got ideas on. So, and they're all not necessarily a romantic comedy like this one. I mean, right now I got the one main character, and then I'm going to go off into something else, and who knows? Maybe I'll even write a historical documentary or historical. Who knows? We'll see.
Is there a
You know.
sequel coming for
Yes, I've got the second book I did write right after that, The Desire for Respect. I wrote a second book, part two. I don't want to call it part two, but it's definitely as we say, it's definitely a continuation of the main character, and it goes
Mhm.
into a desire for respect isn't so desire for love, as you see in the background there, is more about Gianni and his desire to find someone to basically settle down with and
Mhm.
become a husband and wife and a family, right? That was his
Mhm.
desire, right? But the whole book is about his struggles and getting there and so forth, right? So in the second book, what I wrote was about him, uh, looking for respect, whether it's with family, friends, work, school, everything in life. So I showed the struggles that he was having to get to where he was to become successful in his business professional life, right? But everything kind of correlates, right? So I try to tie that together along with the same characters again and try to go back. I didn't want to put it together with the first book, so I kind of split it up to say okay. And then the third one, which I haven't released yet, is I'm going to tie both books together and the character and kind of like put that final piece, that third part to make it, I don't know, maybe it will be over, maybe not. We'll see. But at least the third one I do have planned, at least tying those two together. How it ends, I haven't decided yet, but we'll figure that out.
Sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. Sounds like an awesome story. So you
Mhm.
already have two published, and now the third one is coming out sometime soon.
We'll see. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I haven't decided how to finish. I mean, I've got 3/4 of it written. I just haven't decided how I want to end it, and I haven't decided when I want to release it yet, and so on and so forth. Because what I've decided to do is I don't want to say taking a break from writing. I put a pause on writing until I get my YouTube podcasting launched and going and so forth, and bringing folks on like you, Elena, and other authors and other guests to help me with building up this following, right, and subscriber base, and and so forth, and I like to see what people are saying. I like to get feedback. I want to hear what people have to say about, hey, when and people have been asking me when's your next one coming out? When's your next one coming out? It's like, hold on, let me I want to make the third one not just like I want to make it like the best out of the three, right? Because I feel like I think like the first one was a good book, right? It is a good book. The second one I think is a little better, but I like the story better. It's not necessarily better, but I like the story better. I don't know how you feel about your three books.
I kind of had a very similar feeling. But I always say I feel terrible because it's kind of like comparing your kids, you can really say that. I love that one. So yeah, it's impossible to say, but I notice, as I write, and like when I'm finished with the next book, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. This is better than this is better than the previous one. I thought it was me, to be honest. I thought it was, but I did hear from a couple readers. I actually did hear the same thing, because I heard readers tell me that, okay, I love the first book, but with the second one, oh my God, this is just like absolutely mind blowing. It's like, okay, so it wasn't just
Yeah. Well, and I think what it is too is like you and I both, like our first books, like that was our first shot at it, right? And here we are, we're writing it. But then you learn as you're writing, you get better at it, right? Your skills improve, your writing skills start improving along the way. And that's why you probably feel like your other book is better, a better bang, right?
Well, the third one, actually, even time-wise, I was surprised at how quick. Because the first one, I released it, the Hummingbird, I released in 2021, in July, late July. The next year, 2022, I released the Blue Rabbit in September. Yeah. But less than a year later, on the 30th of May, my third one comes out as the same, is the same size, is the same amount. Yeah. But I don't know, the third one, it was just flowing. That I had more time because, well, he's not a baby anymore, he's a toddler. That gives you less time. Seriously, he's 3.5, he's hyperactive. So no, I don't have a lot of time at all. So yeah, limited in that regard. But it was just, I don't know, we just kept going and going and going. And they're all just very different, like my first book, it was written in past tense, and it was written from third person. Yeah. And then in book 2 we have a different format, because half of the book it dives into an old diary. Yeah. So every other chapter is a diary. it's like you're reading someone's diary. So you have the first person there, you know. So it's already different. And then with the third one, I kind of just felt like that had to be told in present tense and from first person. Yeah, so we have two different POVs, but they're talking in present, you know, and from the first person perspective. And so it's a completely different style, you know, completely different, you know, the style of pacing and everything. But yeah, still same characters and same, you know, related stories. But I don't know, maybe it was the writing style. It just kind of maybe it resonated with me. Maybe it was the story that really wanted to come out. So
Right.
that was pretty quick, you know,
Yeah.
from the 30th of September last year.
Mhm.
What, over half a year, basically. And on the 30th of May, I'm releasing my next one. So
Right. Right. Well, as you said, the style, the story, you know, people ask me, well, why did you pick that genre? It's like, well, I didn't pick it. It's just how the story played out. And that's just the genre that it fits.
yeah.
That's where the
Yeah.
story took it. That's the story took it to that genre. I didn't take it to the genre to the story. That's how it fit, you know. And I think people don't understand. I'm going to write a sci-fi story today. Well, so what's your story? Well, if you write something like romantic comedy, that's not sci-fi, right? So you know what I mean. So it's just like it's not the genre; it's the story that creates the genre. And that's what I was asking you. Do you think you'd be writing other genres? And I think I will, just because I will write other stories. And I do think that I do see other genres coming in.
Do you have any favorite genres that you're considering?
That I'm considering
Yeah.
suspense thriller, kind of like mystery. I always like those kind of movies and books, like anything suspenseful or thriller or mystery. I've always liked. It's like I think I like to solve puzzles, and I like to solve crimes or whatever, or try to figure out the crime. I like, or like if I'm watching a movie and you got to find out who the bad person is or whatever. I always figure it out before the end, so it's kind of like that. I kind of like that.
Like a challenge, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah, so
exactly.
it's going to be a double challenge to write it. Just imagine that, because yeah, it's like okay, you know what's going on, yeah, you know,
Right,
but you can't let it spill on the paper,
right. You gotta hide it a little bit.
the edge of their seat, and whoa, that's going to be a double challenge.
Yeah,
But
like I said, I did start writing out, and not only did I write the third book, I have another book, another protagonist. Like I'm writing my main character of another book is going to be about a female. She's going to be the heroine, right? So now I'm writing the female as the hero in the book, and that's a completely different genre than this one. That one's a little more towards the thriller kind of suspense, kind of like towards that, right? And it's kind of like there's blackmail and this and that and whatnot. You know, there's just crimes. There's like arrests. You know, all kinds of stuff that you don't see in my other three books. You wouldn't see that. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, I got a decent amount of my imagination. I think I can work the stories.
absolutely, and it looks like you actually you found yourself, you found your path, and this feeling when you're like, I know that I should be doing this because it feels right. Yeah,
Right.
it
Yeah.
feels great, and I love creating these things, and I love it how you said about the story, because yeah, this is what it is about. The story needs to be told. The story picks you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, if you don't go ahead and tell it, it's just gonna go go away,
Right.
find someone else. I absolutely love that concept. There's an amazing book by Liz Gilbert. It's called Big Magic. It's for creatives. Highly recommended. It's a genius book. And yeah, the way she describes this process is really amazing. I really agree with that. There is a
Mm-hmm.
story that needs to manifest itself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it needs to come into this world, and it's like, hi, I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you write me down,
Yeah.
please?
Right. Right.
What you can do is you just have to, you know, to grab that chance, that opportunity, and then you tell the story. And if you and the story click, that's magic. That's the
Yep.
big magic. That is
Yep.
the most amazing feeling ever.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Getting those words to start as you're typing or whatever it is you choose, whatever, just putting the words together and just making a story. Yeah, it's a magical feeling. And speaking of magical feeling, where could readers of our viewers get your book?
My books are at the moment they're on Amazon. They're ebooks. They're the paperbacks. They look like very pretty paperbacks. I know, really. I'm very proud of my covers. The whole series looks very, very nice. And I myself prefer to read ebooks. Well, not prefer. I just only have the chance to read ebooks again because I have a little baby. Yes, I read them on my phone. But I love physical books.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of readers of my books. They say they're so pretty. I just want to have them on my bookshelf. Even though I read the ebook, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna buy them because they just look so amazing.
Let me not read it, but they like the cover and they want them on their shelf.
Oh, well, yeah, because it's all about the aesthetics, and yeah, I mean the pretty. I mean, I've been like that. I have bought books just because they're pretty, but these ones are good insight too, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, so they can buy it on Amazon. Do you have a website too as well?
And yeah, I have a website, my author website. I don't sell from the website, so right now they're only on Amazon. But in the nearest future, I will be going wide. I'll start with the ebooks for sure, because up until this moment, my ebooks were available on Kindle Unlimited. Yeah, so I was exclusively with the Amazon, with the KDP publishing. I decided to change that, and I want to go wide. So I'm taking them out of Kindle Unlimited. The first book is out already, and the second book is still there, and the third book, it will be there for like 3 months. Yeah, but then later on, I want to publish them. I'll be publishing them on other platforms, so they'll be available on Apple Books and Kobo and all the other platforms. That's, I don't know, maybe in a month or two, because this month is really dedicated to launch, and there's a lot of work. There's a lot of, well, the whole pre-launch hassle in the marketing and everything, plus plus I have my podcast, plus I'm starting a YouTube, and like, okay, I don't have like really any time to do that, and that's a lot of work.
Yeah, but it is.
I hope maybe in a month or two, my books will be actually, at least the first one will be available wide on all the ebook platforms.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. So great.
It's good to start with the first book and just see, see if you like it. See if you want to. This one doesn't really have a cliffhanger. So yeah, you can. If you really didn't click with it, you can just leave it there. If you want to continue, then you get the second book and the third book.
Right. So. Yeah. So great. So those are where we can readers can get your book. I'm going to actually include the links on the description of the video when I post this video on YouTube and my Rumble account. So my channel is growing. We're growing here. You come at the right time to help with the growth of the Massimo Palermo podcasts and videos and so forth. So folks, just like Elena did, subscribe and like the video, so that way you get alerted when the new videos come out, and other authors such as Elena and other indie writers as well come on and do this, and maybe you might want to be interested in those as well. Again, thank you again so much for joining me today, Elena. Wish you all the best of luck with your success. I think very successful. You're going to be very successful, I believe. And thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Thank you. So, if you are connected on my social media sites, contact me directly to make an appearance on the MPP Power Hour. Hurry while there are still spots available. Don't forget to smack those buttons to subscribe and like my video. Thank you for watching.